In the coming months, America's restaurant landscape is about to look very different, and not in a good way. Once beloved chains that fed millions are now drowning in debt, collapsing under empty dining rooms, and bleeding locations faster than they can shut off the lights. Bankruptcy filings, mass closures, shrinking foot traffic, and shifting customer tastes have pushed some of the biggest names in casual dining to the very edge of extinction. This is a grim countdown of 15 major restaurant chains that may not survive 2025. So buckle up, dinner is served, but these chains might not stick around long enough to bring the check. Number 1. Red Lobster. Red Lobster isn't just sinking, it's already underwater and waving at us from the ocean floor. In May 2024, the 55-year-old seafood giant officially filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, dragging behind it more than $1 billion in debt. And if that wasn't dramatic enough, the company abruptly shut down 93 restaurants in a single day. Employees showed up to locked doors, confused customers found signs taped to windows, and the internet lit up with shock. It was the corporate version of abandoning ship. But the real torpedo wasn't a freak accident. It was endless shrimp. The $20 all-you-can-eat promotion that was supposed to boost traffic instead bled the company dry. In just one quarter, it blew an $11 million hole in Red Lobster's finances. Apparently, Red Lobster has a long history of forgetting that seafood actually costs money. Then came the ownership chaos. Their Thai-based parent company bailed in mid-2024, leaving behind angry suppliers, unpaid bills, and a brand that looked more like a shipwreck than a restaurant chain. By late 2024, another 23 locations quietly closed, adding to the carnage. Traffic has been sinking for 5 straight years, supply costs are brutal, and younger diners simply aren't lining up for frozen seafood drowned in butter sauce. A new CEO is promising a leaner menu and a streamlined capital structure, but at this point it may take more than Cheddar Bay biscuits to keep this ship from disappearing into the deep. Number 2. TGI Fridays. There's not much to thank God for at TGI Fridays anymore. Once the king of suburban nightlife, packed bars, booming weekends, Jack Daniel's glaze on everything, the chain is now fighting for its life. In November 2024, Fridays officially filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, capping off one of the roughest years in its 59-year history. Before the filing, the brand was already in freefall. Over 130 restaurants shut down in 2024 alone, many overnight with employees getting last-minute texts saying the location was permanently closed. Foot traffic collapsed. Sales plunged 15% year over year. And then, the company's own bondholders staged a coup, kicking out management and taking control of the brand in a desperate attempt to salvage what's left. Fridays blames the long tail of COVID and mountains of debt, but the truth is simpler. Younger diners don't want to spend $18 on reheated bar food when they can get fresher, faster, cheaper meals anywhere else. The chain that once dominated mall culture is now a ghost of itself, and malls aren't exactly thriving either. Fridays tried revamping the menu, grilled and sauced, launching ghost kitchens and pushing delivery-only brands. None of it worked. The vibe feels dated, the decor screams 1999, and the signature stripes on the awnings might as well be caution tape at this point. From over 900-plus locations at its peak to fewer than 300 left worldwide, TGI Fridays is shrinking so fast that even a successful bankruptcy plan might not save it. If the chain can't win back the crowds, or reinvent itself entirely, Fridays may run out of Fridays. Number 3. Denny's. Denny's, America's always-open diner, is quietly turning off the lights, literally. The chain announced it will close 150 locations by the end of 2025, roughly 10% of its entire U.S. footprint. About half of those 24/7 diners have already vanished, and the rest are disappearing one pancake special at a time. What happened? The same thing that happened to every late-night icon. The pandemic wiped out their most reliable customers. Night shift workers, bar crowds, college students, and anyone wandering in at 3 a.m. looking for coffee and answers. That midnight business never came back, and Denny's CEO openly admitted that many stores are very old and in declining areas no longer attracting crowds. 5 straight quarters of declining same-store sales tell the story. Even after launching a fresh value menu, the chain hasn't been able to lure in inflation-strained families who can make breakfast at home for cheaper. Consumers are trading sit-down diners for fast food, drive-through meals, and grocery store eggs. Denny's tried to stay relevant with virtual brands, including a burrito concept run out of their kitchens. But that wasn't enough to fill the empty booths, and Wall Street certainly noticed. When Denny's announced the mass closures, its stock plunged nearly 18% in a single day, one of the worst drops in company history. The chain started 2024 with about 1,525 locations. By next year, it will be much smaller, clinging to the hope that a remodel and better food quality can spark a comeback. But the late-night diner era is fading fast, and Denny's, at once the final stop on every road trip and party night, is running out of time to stay open. Number 4, Applebee's. Applebee's, the self-proclaimed neighborhood grill, is discovering that many neighborhoods don't want it anymore. The chain has been quietly shrinking for nearly a decade, but the last few years have been brutal. Since 2021 alone, Applebee's has shut down more than 70 restaurants, dropping from 1,578 U.S. units by late 2024. And that number keeps falling. The issue? 6 straight quarters of declining same-store sales. Applebee's was already struggling with younger diners who have no interest in $15 burgers, microwaved appetizers, or the 1995 mall restaurant vibe. And in today's inflation-heavy economy, casual dining is the first casualty. Why sit down and pay full-service prices when fast casual offers the same food faster and cheaper? Franchisees aren't doing much better. At least one major franchise operator filed for bankruptcy, forcing corporate to take back dozens of stores, an expensive rescue mission. And more closures are coming, with Applebee's planning an additional 20 to 35 net closures. To survive, Applebee's attempted something unusual: dual-branded locations with IHOP. Yes, they combined pancake houses and bar and grill menus under one roof. One test location in Texas reportedly tripled sales in its first week, but it's unclear if this can save the brand long-term. A major remodel project called Looking Good is underway to modernize older stores. But even fresh paint can't fix a generational shift. Younger diners simply don't crave chain bar cocktails and sampler platters anymore. With casual dining fading and competition everywhere, Applebee's faces an uphill climb to remain relevant. And unless this new strategy works, the neighborhood grill may get evicted from more neighborhoods soon. Number 5. Red Robin. Not even bottomless fries can fill the bottomless hole in Red Robin's finances. The once-beloved burger chain entered 2025 in full crisis mode, bleeding money faster than it can flip patties. By the end of 2024, Red Robin reported a $77.5 million net loss, a massive plunge from its already painful $21 million loss the year before. Revenue dropped another $54 million year over year, and dining traffic is still nowhere near pre-pandemic levels. Management finally snapped and launched a turnaround plan that includes closing up to 70 locations over the next 5 years, with at least 15 stores expected to shut down in 2025 alone. But they're trying to do it quietly, letting leases expire so the closures don't look as catastrophic as they really are. It's a slow bleed instead of a dramatic amputation, the irony? Red Robin actually posted a tiny 3.4% same-store sales uptick in late 2024. But that wasn't nearly enough to offset rising labor costs, expensive ingredients, and stores that haven't seen real foot traffic since the Obama administration. Many of their suburban locations, once bustling family spots, are now half-empty dining rooms with staff waiting for customers who never come. The chain has tried everything: slimmed-down menus, milkshake revivals, better burgers, employee retention programs. But the brand still struggles to reconnect with families and younger diners who prefer modern, fast casual alternatives. Investors aren't convinced. They've watched Red Robin shrink for nearly a decade and fear the chain's momentum is gone for good. Unless this new strategy pulls off a miracle, even bottomless fries won't be enough to keep Red Robin from bottoming out. Number 6. Ruby Tuesday. Ruby Tuesday went from mall food royalty to near extinction, fast. Once a 900-location powerhouse, the chain collapsed into bankruptcy in 2020, shuttering 185 restaurants overnight. After emerging with new ownership, Ruby Tuesday limped into 2025 as a ghost of its former self, holding on to just about 209 locations worldwide, barely a quarter of what it had in its heyday. And the decline hasn't stopped. Ruby Tuesday has quietly exited entire regions of the U.S., In some states, it's easier to find Bigfoot than a Ruby Tuesday. The western half of the country basically wiped out. What remains is a patchy network of aging restaurants in the southeast and mid-Atlantic, many running on razor-thin margins. The chain's real problem is relevance. Its menu, ribs, burgers, salad bar, and classic American casual dining, simply didn't translate into the post-pandemic era. When work from home became the norm and diners shifted to delivery, Ruby Tuesday's dine-in-focused model crumbled. Their attempt at virtual brands and DoorDash-only concepts didn't revive traffic or revenue. Private equity ownership didn't help. Instead of investing in modernization, they cut aggressively. Stores, staff, marketing, everything. By 2023, many locations couldn't even pay utility bills on time. Foot traffic evaporated, and with almost no advertising, younger diners forgot Ruby. Tuesday even existed. Analysts now warn that the chain may not survive another economic downturn. With an aging store fleet, minimal brand visibility, and no real differentiation in a saturated market, Ruby Tuesday is effectively a regional chain on life support. Without a complete reinvention, every day might soon be goodbye. Number 7. Boston Market. Boston Market didn't just decline, thus it imploded. What was once a fast casual pioneer has collapsed to barely 20 stores left nationwide as of 2025. That's not a downsizing, that's a corporate extinction event happening in real time. The downfall didn't happen overnight. Years of mismanagement, unpaid rent, unpaid wages, franchise walkouts, and lawsuits pushed the chain into a financial death spiral. In New Jersey alone, 27 Boston markets were shut down at once for labor violations. An unthinkable embarrassment for a brand that once symbolized wholesome homestyle meals. Entire regions have lost every Boston market location. Florida, gone. Most of the West Coast, gone. Many states now have 0 remaining stores, leaving only a scattering of lonely outposts hanging on by a thread. The last Boston market in Delaware was described as nearly deserted, looking more like an abandoned set than a working restaurant. Food quality tanked too. Customers complained about dry chicken, missing sides, stale cornbread, and half-stocked steam tables. Meanwhile, grocery store rotisserie chicken, cheaper, fresher, and easier, became the go-to option for families Boston market used to dominate. Ownership hasn't helped. Court filings show shady maneuvering, broken promises, and failed bankruptcy attempts that were rejected by judges. Franchisees fled the brand, suppliers stopped delivering, and employees were left in the dark as stores closed abruptly. By 2025, Boston Market is less a restaurant chain and more a cautionary tale of how quickly a beloved brand can collapse when leadership fails and customers move on. Unless a miracle investor appears, Boston Market could become the next blockbuster, remembered fondly but found nowhere. Number 8. On the Border. On the Border, once the largest casual Tex-Mex chain in the United States, has officially crossed into full bankruptcy territory. In March 2025, its parent company filed for Chapter 11, and the collapse was swift and brutal. 77 locations closed almost overnight, instantly erasing nearly 2/3 of the brand. Fewer than 40 restaurants remain open, a stunning fall for a chain that once bragged about its margaritas, fajitas, and endless chips. So what happened? A perfect storm. Inflation hammered their margins, labor shortages left dining rooms slow and understaffed. Declining foot traffic made the massive Tex-Mex dining rooms feel emptier every year. And worst of all, the brand never recovered from the pandemic. A fatal blow for a concept built on large groups, happy hour crowds, and long dining experiences. Meanwhile, competitors like Chili's, Chipotle, and local Mexican restaurants swooped in and stole their audience. Younger diners especially didn't connect with the dated cantina decor, the heavy Tex-Mex dishes, or the mid-2000s chain restaurant vibe. Behind the scenes, the financial picture was even uglier. Court filings reveal millions owed to vendors and landlords, and more than 2,800 employees were impacted by the sudden closures. The company's leadership insists that restructuring will save the brand, but with most of its footprint wiped out and its reputation damaged, the road back is steep. On the Border's future now depends on whether its leaner structure can attract a new generation of diners, or whether it follows Chi-Chi's into the graveyard of once famous Tex-Mex chains. Number 9. Buca di Beppo. Buca di Beppo, once the king of over-the-top Italian dining, is now clinging to life with a bowl of cold pasta and a mountain of debt. In August 2024, the chain's parent company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, revealing a financial disaster worthy of a mob movie. Court documents showed $38.9 million in debt, including more than $3 million in unpaid employee wages, a devastating sign of how deep the crisis runs. If 1990s nostalgia powered Buca's rise, a lack of reinvention powered its fall. The kitschy decor, the dimly lit rooms, the giant family-style platters, they all feel frozen in a time when pagers were high-tech. Younger diners prefer sleek, modern restaurants, fresh ingredients, and clean branding, not walls covered in old photographs and Chianti bottles. In 2024 alone, 18 Buca di Beppo locations shut down, with 12 closing in one brutal week. That's not downsizing, that's evacuation. The chain, once spread across the country, now operates barely 30 functional restaurants, most of which are in survival mode. Under its longtime owner, the same group behind Planet Hollywood, Buca expanded too fast, then neglected its stores. Locations became outdated, utility payments lagged, food consistency tanked, and competitors, especially Olive Garden, crushed them with stronger marketing and lower prices. In bankruptcy, the company promises a reset, but with a decimated footprint, an outdated concept, and younger consumers uninterested in quirky Italian theatrics, the brand's chances are bleak. If Buca can't reinvent itself quickly, those red-checkered tablecloths might end up folded for good. Number 10. Steak and Shake. Steak and Shake once ruled the late-night burger scene. Sizzling patties, real milkshakes, and 24/7 dining rooms that pulled in crowds from midnight to sunrise. But in 2025, the chain is limping along after losing over 200 locations since 2018. From roughly 600 stores at its peak, Steak and Shake now has barely 400 left, and each year brings more closures. The downfall is a perfect example of what happens when a classic brand can't keep up with modern expectations. Slow service, aging restaurants, long waits, confused menus, rising costs, and eventually customers walked away. Things got so bad that by 2021, the company was on the brink of bankruptcy, only surviving through a last-minute debt restructure. But survival didn't fix the deeper issues. Foot traffic stayed low, franchisees quit, and many of the chain's once iconic 24-hour locations went dark permanently. Management tried to modernize, but it backfired. They eliminated table service and replaced it with fast food-style ordering kiosks, alienating older customers who loved the sit-down diner vibe. They simplified the menu, shifted operations, and even began cooking fries and beef tallow again in 2024 to revive the flavor. But none of it reversed the trend. The brand is now holding onto a shrinking core of profitable stores, hoping to rebuild from a smaller base. Investors, however, are skeptical. After years of closures, inconsistent leadership, and a customer base migrating to Five Guys, Culver's, and Shake Shack, Steak and Shake's future remains uncertain. If the chain can't stabilize soon, another wave of closures could push this American classic from struggling to gone. Number 11. Hooters. Hooters, once an unmistakable piece of Americana, has entered a tailspin so steep it's hard to tell what's left of the brand. In 2024, the chain quietly shut down around 40 locations, many closing overnight with zero warning to customers or staff. For longtime fans, the closures weren't a surprise. The real shock is that Hooters lasted this long. The brand's problems are painfully obvious. Its entire identity, wings, beer, and waitresses in orange shorts, is stuck in a different era. Gen Z wants modern sports bars, good food, and an atmosphere that doesn't feel like a time capsule from 1987. Hooters offers none of that. Same-store sales have flatlined for years, and numerous franchise owners have filed for bankruptcy or simply walked away from their leases. Attempts to modernize fell flat. They launched Hoots, a family-friendly spin-off without the iconic uniforms. But customers didn't want Hooters without Hooters, and younger diners didn't want Hooters with them either. The brand is trapped between two generations and pleasing neither. Behind the scenes, things look even rougher. Margins are razor-thin, locations are outdated, and the retail merchandise lines that once supplemented revenue aren't enough to stop the decline. Industry insiders whisper that a Chapter 11 filing for the entire company is more likely than not. With only around 300 locations left worldwide, down from more than 430 at its peak, Hooters is rapidly fading. Cultural shifts, financial struggles, and a dated concept have clipped the owl's wings, and unless something drastic changes, Hooters may soon join Bennigan's and Chi-Chi's in the graveyard of once iconic American restaurant chains. Number 12. Hardee's. Hardee's, the long-running fast food burger chain, known for its biscuits and thick burgers, is facing one of the most brutal declines in its history. After losing nearly 100 restaurants in 2023, the chain followed up with another wave of closures throughout 2024, including a near-total retreat from Illinois after a major franchise operator collapsed. Entire regions are disappearing from the Hardee's map. Competition is crushing them. McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King have spent years modernizing, improving drive-thrus, and upgrading dining rooms. Hardee's? Many locations still look and feel like they haven't changed since 1998. Customers notice, and they've been leaving in droves. Inflation made things worse. Hardee's core customer base is extremely price-sensitive, and when breakfast at McDonald's became the cheaper option, loyalty evaporated. Even in the Southeast, once Hardee's stronghold, Chick-fil-A and Dunkin' are siphoning away the morning crowd, but Hardee's internal issues are just as damaging. Franchisees complain about high fees, outdated support systems, and weak marketing from the parent company, CKE Restaurants. Many operators have simply decided the juice isn't worth the squeeze, choosing to close rather than continue in the red. Hardee's now sits at roughly 1,600 locations, down from nearly 2,000 a decade ago, and the downward trajectory hasn't slowed. The brand needs massive investment to modernize stores, update menus, and rebuild trust. But with parent company debt to service and shrinking revenue, that reinvention may never come. If Hardee's doesn't stabilize soon, the once beloved biscuit giant may quietly fade away, one shuttered store at a time. Number 13. Burger King. Burger King, once the proud home of the Whopper, is now the home of shutdown notices, bankrupt franchisees, and disappearing restaurants. The chain is shrinking so fast it feels like someone hit the minus button on the kingdom. In 2023 alone, Burger King closed 300 or 400 U.S. locations, and by early 2024, another wave of shuttered stores hit coast to coast. From long-standing locations in Nebraska to decades-old franchises in New York and Michigan. The truth is brutal. Burger King is losing the fast food war. While McDonald's and Wendy's have surged ahead with modern tech, cleaner stores, and faster service, Burger King has fallen behind with outdated buildings, sluggish drive-thrus, and franchise operators barely keeping up. Several large franchise groups, responsible for dozens of stores, filed for bankruptcy, leaving entire regions without a single functioning Burger King. In late 2023, the company launched its Reclaim the Flame campaign, hoping flashy remodels and marketing would bring customers back. But paint and posters can't fix a brand that's been struggling for over a decade. Traffic remains flat. Same-store sales lag behind rivals. And customer sentiment continues to slide, especially as the brand's quality becomes less consistent. The Whopper still has loyal fans, but loyalty doesn't pay rent on 40-year-old buildings. Today, Burger King has fewer than 7,000 U.S. locations, the lowest count in decades. And leadership has made it clear, more closures are coming. If this turnaround doesn't ignite soon, Burger King may continue shrinking until it's no longer a kingdom. Just a memory. Number 14. Subway. Subway, once the largest restaurant chain in America, is undergoing a collapse so massive it almost defies belief. At its peak in 2015, Subway had 27,000 U.S. locations, more than McDonald's and Starbucks combined. But by the end of 2024, that number had fallen below 20,000, with 631 stores closing in 2024 alone. The problem? Subway expanded too fast, too close together, and too often cannibalized its own sales. Some blocks had 3 Subways on the same street. Franchisees were drowning, profits evaporated, and thousands finally surrendered their leases. Then came the scandals. Jared Fogel's horrific crimes tarnished the brand for years. The fake tuna lawsuit, even though dismissed, fueled internet mockery. And customers noticed shrinking portion sizes, rising prices, and sandwiches that no longer tasted fresh, no matter how loud the slogan insisted. In 2023, private equity giant Rourke Capital bought the struggling chain, promising a full-scale turnaround. But the first phase of the plan wasn't growth, it was cutting the fat. Hundreds of underperforming stores were axed, especially in oversaturated urban markets. Meanwhile, competition is brutal. Jersey Mike's, Firehouse Subs, Jimmy John's, all have surged past Subway in quality and customer loyalty. Even grocery store delis are outshining the once mighty footlong. Subway wants to rebuild with remodels, better franchising oversight, and menu upgrades. But it's unclear if the public is ready to forgive nearly a decade of decline. Once a giant, now a shrinking empire, Subway's slow collapse continues 1 foot long at a time. Number 15, Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel, once the dependable roadside refuge for road trips, retirees, and anyone craving nostalgia with a side of biscuits, is quietly slipping into a dangerous decline. After decades of stable growth, the chain hit a harsh wall, and now closures are stacking up like rocking chairs on a clearance rack. In late 2023 and throughout 2024, Cracker Barrel shut down locations across multiple states, including a full exit from Oregon and several stores in California and the Southeast. What used to be a 660-plus unit empire has now fallen below 640 locations, with more closures expected as traffic dwindles and costs soar. The pandemic didn't kill Cracker Barrel, inflation did. High gas prices reduced long-distance travel, shrinking the brand's core customer base. Families stopping during road trips. Add declining foot traffic, aging buildings, and a menu that hasn't changed much since the Clinton years, and you have a chain struggling to stay relevant. Cracker Barrel's leadership admitted trouble when same-store restaurant sales turned negative in 2024, a major red flag for a chain long considered recession-proof. Activist investors piled on, pushing the company to cut costs and even consider spinning off its retail shops, the country store half of its identity. But the biggest hurdle, younger diners simply aren't connecting with the old-timey decor, kitschy gift shops, or massive carb-heavy plates. TikTok isn't buzzing about Uncle Herschel's favorite, and no one under 35 is lining up for a rocking chair selfie. With shrinking revenue, rising labor costs, and an identity trapped in the past, Cracker Barrel risks becoming another piece of Americana that fades away quietly. If the chain can't modernize without losing its soul, those famous rocking chairs may soon sit empty for good.